Visible Systems Corporation's comprehensive universal model framework attempts to fulfill the idea of a total model reuse through familiar objects and patterns. The key to this approach is to consider a model as constructed of reusable components, object classes. Each model contains fairly common object classes developed over and over again in different guises. By raising the level of abstraction, we are able to generalize about the object classes and their relationships within a model, thus the Universal Model Framework. The Universal Model Framework also adds an additional frame of reference. Also referenced as ontologies, each object class may have one or more levels of abstraction based upon the business perspective from which the object class is viewed. For example, an entity viewed from a sales perspective will have different ontology characteristics than the same entity viewed from a manufacturing perspective. The Universal Model Framework is constructed with these different perspectives in mind. In the Universal Model Framework, closely related data are grouped by subject area, business objects. While many business activities can be supported by data from a single subject area, other activities need data from several subject areas. The Universal Model Framework shows the interdependency of the subject areas. By grouping the activities performed by business function, the subject areas, hence the data, needed to support the business functions are determined. The Universal Model Framework is a high-level data model containing nearly 50 business subject areas or object classes and encompassing over 600 entities with 1,000 attributes. Each of the object classes is centered on a kernel entity. The kernel entities were established based on their relevance in the business environment. The object classes constructed around the kernel entity vary in complexity. The object class period, for example, consists of only 3 entities. Others, such as performance, are very complex and consist of between 20 and 30 different entities. The Universal Model Framework has 2 levels of views: the object view as shown here and the object class view named for each of the kernel entities. The object view provides a big picture perspective of how the object classes relate to one another, while an object class view consists of a number of entities that are closely coupled to the kernel entity. These closely coupled entities are viewed as properties of the kernel entity. An asset is anything of value, whether tangible, equipment, materials, or intangible, royalty agreements, patents, that is owned by a person, association, corporation, or estate. It identifies the entire property of an individual, association, corporation, or estate applicable or subject to the payment of his or her debts. It identifies the items on a balance sheet of an organization, association, person, or estate identified in the model as a financial center, showing the book value of property owned. An asset is a resource at the disposal of the owning entity to use in performing its function. The location of the asset provides information on its availability. An asset is classified as a potential business solution to a business need. The Universal Model Framework provides the basis for re-engineering the enterprise, promotes the reuse of business objects comprised of both data and activities across the various functions of the enterprise, establishes direction for system development, significantly increases the likelihood that new systems will effectively meet business needs, significantly reduces system development time, and significantly reduces system maintenance. For organizations that have already developed one or more data models, or perhaps have begun building an enterprise data architecture, Visible System Corporation's comprehensive Universal Model Framework can serve as a quality benchmark against which existing models can be compared. Existing models can also be integrated with the Universal Model Framework to achieve data standardization and to ensure information systems interoperability.